All right, we are seeing what we can only describe now as the legacy media's codependent relationship with the Biden press shop. This assessment is based on a series of embarrassing headlines, we'll say, from America's best-known publishers, publications that millions of Americans still rely on to give us the news in a straight fashion. That said, one has to wonder if the White House press corps deserves what's coming to them. Now, the AP wrote this over the weekend, quote, "At Camp David retreat, Biden hangs out, shows he's got game." Newsweek also gushed about the commander-in-chief's Mario Kart skills. I'm not kidding. And his German Shepherds. Now, I love dogs as much as the next guy, but this is not exactly hard-hitting stuff here, especially in the middle of a raging pandemic, the collapse of our public school system, under the weight of teachers' unions, increasing tensions with our adversaries like Russia and China, and a crippling national weather event, which has caused an energy crisis as well. But don't worry, there's new management at the White House. You all heard about this. Everything's under control. The press corps is apparently so confident of this, they don't really need to circle back to White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki for anything, although they are asking her some tough questions right now as we speak. They don't seem too interested, though, in a lot of follow-up questions. You know, the things like Israel and Saudi Arabia being U.S. allies or not. Most of the legacy members of the press corps seem way too willing to sit back and wait for, what do they call it, ongoing processes and interagency processes. That's what Psaki told all of us that was going to happen. But apparently they are saying today that they are going to call Benjamin Netanyahu, after all, after some pressure from the press corps. Meanwhile, CNN, the same people who reported on every single golf outing of President Trump's like it was another episode from Watergate, published this story under the headline, quote, "Inside the new president's routine, Oval Office fires and early bedtimes." Quote in the article here, "He has expressed a preference for a fire built in the Oval Office fireplace and sometimes adds a log himself to keep it going." What a guy. Now, his two dogs, German Shepherds called Major and Champ, sometimes join him by that fire. It sounds very quaint, but of course we had some questions because the AP also is reporting on how vigorous preparation returns as Biden calls other world leaders. That's a real headline from the AP too. Now, keep in mind the daily presidential briefing didn't happen today until about 30 minutes ago. Maybe it's the vice president doing all the rigors of the White House for the commander-in-chief right now. Well, the press corps may have forgotten about the previous administration, no, not the Trump administration, the one before that, and how poorly they were treated by that same administration. They might remember if they stopped obsessing about President Trump for just a few minutes. Flashback with me to 2013 when the Obama administration was secretly obtaining the phone records of Associated Press journalists. Let's also not forget that New York Times reporter James Risen called President Obama, quote, "the greatest enemy of press freedom in a generation." And then Fox News reporter James Rosen, a different guy even though the name sounds similar, was also a target of Attorney General Eric Holder, who got a judge to sign a search warrant to look through records from Rosen's phone. In emails from 2009, the Obama DOJ was trying to identify the leaker from a story that Rosen had done about North Korea. Holder also later admitted that he regretted that, of course. We know they have an issue with some of these surveillance things. But the damage had been done, of course, and we also feel obligated to remind everyone that the Obama-Biden administration also promised to usher in a new era of transparency. Remember those White House visitors logs that we never really got to see? Of course, that never all happened, right? And what did happen, though, were a series of targeted attacks on the press meant to have a chilling effect on the media's coverage of the Obama White House. And it apparently worked based on the unwillingness of the establishment media to really hold President Biden, the former vice president, accountable for anything, although that is starting to happen right now. Let's also welcome in the co-host of Spicer and Company, which you can see every day at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on Newsmax TV, Sean Spicer, a man who knows what it's like to sit at that podium. Sean, great to see you as always.
Hey, great to see you, John. Thanks for having me.
I think you unfairly kind of had to face this music because there was a lot of animosity about the Obama White House and the way they treated the press corps. But of course, it wasn't fashionable for them to take it out on them. So I think you bore the brunt of that.
Well, to some degree. But I think part of this comes down to ideology, right? And they share the ideology and the policy objectives of both the Obama White House and now the Biden White House. So they're willing to overlook a lot because in their hearts, they believe that this administration is going in a direction that they're in agreement with. So that there's the treatment piece of this that you mentioned and that you discussed, and then there's the policy, which if you're a leftist, which most of these guys are, then they go, we're willing to overlook all of this because, well, he's doing the things that we agree with. And they want to exalt him. They want to write about the dogs, then the fireplace, and the trip to Camp David because they admire what this administration is doing and they want to do everything they can to uplift it. And that's very different than where it was under President Trump, where no matter that the policies were supported by the people, by the American people, and had results that pulled people out of poverty, created jobs, did all of these things that President Trump said they were going to do. Because they disagreed with the agenda, they would do anything to stop it.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things, too, to their credit, that was smart that the Obama administration did, and that the Biden administration seems to be doing as well, is taking people from the campaign who are friendly with the press and then putting them in important positions inside the administration so those relationships continue.
Well, there's part of that, but remember, when you start talking to a lot of the folks in the press corps about how they were treated on the campaign trail, they'll tell you that they were, in many times, it was very aggressive, that they were shut out of things, that they were not given access. But again, this goes back to what I mentioned a moment ago, which is if you're in agreement with the liberal objectives and the policies that are being promoted, you're willing to overlook that. It wasn't that they were treated great. In fact, in many cases, they'll talk about the fact that they didn't have access to the candidate, that they didn't have access to a lot of the events, that they were treated poorly. But again, it comes back to the ideology. Yeah. And so you're right that they are putting people in places that but to them, that's more about good. See, we know that these policies are going to be pursued because we know the ideology of this particular person that we got to know during the campaign.
Yeah, it works for them. It doesn't work for the American public, but it works for them. Let's talk about what we saw yesterday on President's Day down in West Palm Beach, Florida. President Trump driving by his supporters on his way back from his golf club to Mar-a-Lago here. Sean, this is why I think we'll still see a lot of coverage of President Trump. We'll see these prosecutions continue to be talked about because this video strikes fear in the hearts of Democrats and also, I think, a lot of Republicans who don't want President Trump coming back.
Well, John, more than that, I think it invokes a lot of head scratching. That the folks in the media, and you touched on this a moment ago, they don't know what to make of it. They're trying to say, they keep trying to say, well, President Trump's no longer president. The impeachment's over. Why are these people clinging to them? Why are Republicans clinging to them? Why are they turning out on this parade route? And they just don't get it. And I think that shows the disconnect between where they are and where the Republican base are. This president still enjoys a high 80% approval rating among the base. I've been in politics a long time. I've never seen people, especially after the fact, line streets the way they do for President Trump after he's left office. Never mind while some presidents are in office. He engenders this sense of just don't normally see in politics from either side of the party, and that bewilders so many people on the left and in the press corps. And as I've mentioned, generally that's the same group.
Yeah, these folks, it was made national news yesterday, but these folks have been out there for, basically since President Trump got back into West Palm Beach and Palm Beach County. They're out there flying the flags every day. And it's an important point. These folks see President Trump still as the leader of the America First movement, the MAGA movement, which they are still very much a part of, unlike Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger. And I want to talk about this letter where his family is slamming him. We have the handwritten one, and then we've taken it out. Here's what his family says. "Oh, my God, what a disappointment you are to us and God. You have embarrassed the Kinzinger family." I think it was an interesting move by Adam Kinzinger. Obviously, he's trying to raise money now. He wants to be part of his own kind of anti-Trump organization here. What do you think of his family? Seems like kind of airing dirty laundry.
Yeah, I'm actually intrigued by that as well. I sort of was trying to figure out, is that an attempt to make you look like a martyr? I was intrigued by that as well. I think the interesting thing is, I've said this for a long time, that we continue to confuse the rhetoric and the results. That if you look at what President Trump did, and we're seeing this every day, you just mentioned the fact that we haven't had a call to President Netanyahu, one of our closest allies in the Middle East, if not the closest ally in the Middle East, somebody that is important to U.S. foreign policy. You're seeing the COVID issue, the job creation, all of these things, the gun movement that Joe Biden's talking about, his stance on religious liberty, his stance against life when it comes to the Hyde Amendment and Mexico City policy, both policies that use taxpayer dollars to fund abortion. There's been a big shift in policy. And that's the reality of changing from one president to another. All of these folks who said, I didn't like the rhetoric of Donald Trump, are now realizing that rhetoric doesn't hurt you, policies do.
Right.
And I think that the election is showing that every single day, as every new policy, as Keystone Pipeline gets nixed, as immigration doors seem to be flooding back open again, that this president, when you look back, you may not like everything that he said or did or tweeted, but the policies are what kept America safe and prosperous.
Yeah, and people will learn that lesson. A lot of regret. We've already seen this from folks, regret for voting for Biden, especially those Keystone XL pipeline workers, and we'll probably see more of it. Sean, great to see you. We'll see you tonight at 6 p.m. We look forward to it.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.